What do we know about the people who will move? What do they think we need for a good life? Will they come from nearby and speak another language? Will they come from far away and speak our language? When will we become the ones who move? What will we bring with us? How will we greet one another? In the past, what has architecture offered those who move? What could architecture offer them in the future?
My name is Christoph Wagner, I'm architect, and together with Wenke Schladitz, our architectural studio, realized a couple of projects within the last 15 years here, mainly in Berlin. In the most recent years, we have focused on projects that are part of the social and health infrastructure. In our case, the projects are mainly aimed at people from the LGBTQ community. For 10 years, we are not only designing, but also initiate and develop projects. Today, we will talk about the Lovo project in Berlin. I would like to start by giving a brief overview of the history and background of the project. And afterwards, Wenke will then talk about the architecture of the Lovo. And we will very briefly show you a similar project that we are working on at the moment, and that where construction work will begin in a month. It's called Lovo, so it's a similar project. Next slide, please. The idea of the Lovo was born in 2015. This graph shows the number of migrants coming to Germany. And you see the red arrow below. It started in 2015 that because of the war in Syria, almost 1 million refugees from Syria came to Germany, and between 50 and 100 or 80,000 of them came to Berlin. We don't know the exact numbers. There was a split situation in Germany. There were politicians like Angela Merkel and a lot of movements and groups that were welcoming refugees at the train station in Munich and in Berlin and all these big cities. And finally, Angela Merkel said, "Wir schaffen das," which means literally translated, "We can do it." And this was the door opener in a very literal sense. So like really so many people came, and it was unprecedented in the post-war time of Germany. So this is a picture of the administration building where the refugees have to register in Berlin. And they were standing there day and night because they had to be in a certain order, and if they would go away, they would lose their right to be the next one at the next day. So it was a horrible situation. I just tell you this very briefly and to give a short overview where I and where we in our studio were standing at in the year 2014 and 15. Adding to this, being a gay man myself, I probably took particular attention to the news that came at the same time from refugees that already had been arrived in Germany. There was a lot of violence against people who had from the trans or the queer community. One calls it intersectional discrimination. It's not only applies to queer people, of course, but these are refugees, and they have to deal with this discrimination, and they're also within the refugee community. They have still this stigmata of being a trans, and so we have to, because of the time, we go very quick over the next two slides. So this is just showing how much energy in the queer community in general we have in Berlin, and we were thinking there must be a way to start a project out of this energy. And so we were 2014 in the situation to get grab of a lot in a very central area in Berlin, because as I said before, we developed housing projects. And so like co-op housing, like where people together build a house, but even so you have to play Monopoly, and you have to find a little lot where you can do your nice project. yeah, so we found this very interesting lot, and our first idea in 2014 when we got it was to initiate another of these co-op housing projects. You see on the next slide, we can only very briefly go over this. These were like so-called Baugruppenhäuser, like cooperative housing projects. So here we got this one. This, you see from this, it's a very, very bustling train station. And from there, you see how close this lot is to this Ostkreuz train station. And given all this information I gave you, we were looking for concept and also for experts who work in this field, because we are architects. We are not social workers and no sociologists, but we were looking for, and we found actually initiative in Berlin that works for 40 years in the queer area. It's called Schwulenberatung. If you translate literally, it's like gay counseling, which is sounds a bit weird probably. But they have other houses and apartments that for elder people, queer people. And so we talked to the head of there, and together we tried to find a concept for these intersectional discriminated queer refugees, to build a home, to give them a little long-term perspective and for integration into the Berlin society. But since this kind of building we had in mind, or project, there's no role model, we couldn't copy. So we were thinking of, we as architects thought, oh, we have to get as many rooms for refugees as is possible. And the people from the Schwulenberatung, who were thinking of running the house later, they said, no, we have to mix it. We have to mix it on two levels. We have to mix the residents within the building. And without getting into details, I can tell you that like the middle 4 floors is like for the queer refugees. These are shared apartments. The upper 2 floors is where you can rent regular apartments. They're like heterosexual families living right now. And on the ground floor, there is a storefront. This is rented by, which has nothing to do with the concept of the house. But we found out that it's so important to not to be the gay house at the end of the street, but to be like a house that has a mixing as part of the concept already. So who lives in the shared apartments? So there is a number. It sounds very little because we decided 25-30% of the people going there should be refugees, and the rest should be people that at least live a couple of years in Germany already, who enhance and enforce this integration momentum that could take place within the shared apartments, also language-wise, so that people can talk and learn the language from another. Finally, we started the building process, and we dig into ground. And as you know, our business, we can talk a lot about concepts and theories, but at a certain point, it gets really down and dirty. And when we start building, and we have to face reality. And if you look down, you see these guys. I have not seen a single German-looking or building worker on this side. I know it's another issue we cannot talk into deeply today, but it was very obvious here that there are so many. It's a deep problem we have in our society here in Germany. We have, if you go to the next slide, you see the poor guys on a rainy and cold day who are dealing with the steel and welding it and do all this stuff. They have to do this, and in the thick jackets, we are standing like the Germans are standing on top and supervising. So this is more or less the reality. But even so, finally, after 1.5 years, the Lovo was finished. And I just give you quick facts. It's a 3.5 million project, like euros, but it's almost the same in dollar. It was financed by an anthroposophic bank. So it was not easy to find a bank who were willing to finance this project. It's a so-called GLS bank. And it's based on the 30-year contract we are having with the Schwulenberatung who runs the house. So they run the whole house. We are not involved in it anymore, not so much, but we go there, let's say on a monthly base and talk to and see if there's something to fix or to improve. So we are still very connected to the house. And the last I want to say before I pass over to Wenke, Angela Merkel said we can do it, and I think we as architects we can also do it. We can do a little bit more sometimes than just designing houses. Of course, the design is important, but we should be more aware of our abilities. We can develop ideas and present to others like we did. We can develop even projects in terms of financial and concept. And I just want to encourage other architects who probably listen to this today or students to widen the view of our profession. Okay, Wenke, I pass over to you.
Yeah, here you see the so-called Lovo project. It's view from the street a short time after the completion. Lovo, this name comes from Lebensort Vielfalt am Ostkreuz, which means you can translate it as living place of diversity at Ostkreuz. Ostkreuz is the name of the station nearby. And on the right, you see this cafe on the ground floor, which is with the name Transfer. So it's a small but important place to open the house for the neighbors and for everyone who comes by and want to go in. And also some people from the house can work there and make something working experience. Yeah, here is the view from behind, also the yard and garden side of the building. In general, space was very limited, and so was the budget. So we had always we have to find solutions to save space and to save money. So we try to use the space multiple, for instance. Here on the left, you see the site plan. As we discussed it a lot, how much we should have, for instance, to save the entrance. Yeah. So in the end, we decided for a glass door. You see here on the right, where you go in the middle of the house between the cafe and the shop. At daytime, very safe. And you can also have here an impression of the public use, on the ground floor, and they use now the balcony for some messages and transparency. You see, for instance, respect, intertrans, and so on, which is very nice. Yeah, so now we are inside in the passageway, so it leads to the elevator and the staircase, the meeting room for the group, and to the garden or the yard. We also we thought about a lot how we can save the space for this vulnerable group of residents, that they feel really protected, and but without losing the open and welcoming character of the house, and without that the residents feel locked in or isolated. And this is a contradiction in a way. And I think you all know, or most of you know, the term of safer space we often use now for a place where you can have a pause of discrimination, or you can meet some other like-minded people in a sensitive atmosphere. And so I think today I would say also in terms of the physical architecture, we build a safer space. That means it's not a safe space because we did not erect walls or big fences in the background behind the tree. Yeah? You see a small fence, it's not quite high. Yeah, so we try to create a safer space. That means you are more or less safe, and you can close this light blue door in the night only. And we use transparent and translucent and permeable materials like steel mesh and glass, so that we have all the time this open feeling. Here you can see the backside again. We have on the right, you see this open, airy staircase, and you see the chestnut tree, which fortunately survived the construction period. So here is a view when you leave your apartment. and go to the staircase, the open staircase. The open staircase concept has many advantages. First, it saves costs and materials because you do not need any insulation. And you are also more free in design. It's nice. And what we really try to avoid is long closed corridors or staircases without daylight, with not a good smell, like we know from nursing homes, for instance. And you can see the chestnut tree is growing, and now the branches reach almost into the staircase, which is also nice when you came out from your apartment. Yeah, you are in fresh air, and you look at the green. It's a super nice situation. Yeah, here is a floor plan of a shared apartment. You enter from the yard side into the common kitchen, then you have the corridor, and then there is a kind of lounge or another common space, again directed to the street. Very important is that every room has its own balcony, every private room, even if it's super, super small. On the 3 rooms to the street, it was actually not allowed from the government law. But in the end, we fight it and we got it. And so it's very small, it's only 40 centimeters. But if you can put a small chair and people really use it, it's very nice. It's very different than to have just a French window or something. And we have also 2 common balconies. And to have so many occasions to go outside has proven to be good, above all also in pandemic times. Yeah, you can imagine, we didn't know, but it was the fact. Here you can see a private room. We just finished a furnitures, 1 room with simple furnitures. And here some common spaces. We also try to design the space for instance, the bus for people in wheelchairs very well. Yeah, here it's later the kitchen in use. And here you can see a private room, and it seems like this guy feels really at home, I would say. Yeah, and here are the upper floors, 5 and 6 story, with 3 maisonette or duplex apartments. They are accessed via arcades or open corridors or walkways. In German, it's Laubengang. There's not really a good translation, I think. And these are kind of luxury apartments in a spatial sense, with 4 balconies each, great views, and these are for rent on the free market. And the high rent contribute that the final concept for the whole house is working. It's a kind of cross financing. Here you see inside the rooms, and so it means that the people who live here pay a bit more rent, and the others in the upper stores pay less rent. So back in the yard, you can see the friendly atmosphere in the afternoon when the sun came a little bit through the leaves of the tree. In general, it was the first time that we decided to use colors this time, not only on a special or small things, but also the whole building. As we all know, the perception of colors is very personal and subjective. But in the end, I think it makes a big difference. Then we would do that all in white or gray or so. And so we developed a sensitive, graduated color concept, and I'm really convinced now that it makes the building more friendly and inviting. So here's the next Lovo, and it's also in a very nice area in the west of the town, in Charlottenburg, also near train station, and a lot of restaurants and cafes, shops, and so on around. Very nice area. So our next Lovo is Lovo with double V. We are in the middle of the planning now, and the construction site will begin next month. And this is a kind of extension. The first Lovo building was an existing building converted in 2011. And here you can see a visualization of the building, of the facade to the yard. And as you can see, again, we have this open area staircase, this time with more space for informal meetings and so on. And also on the ground floor, many spaces for community, like a library, 3 common rooms for from 30 to 100 square meters, a well-equipped kitchen, and different other things. A bit closer, you see the open staircase again. This time is also the mix is a bit more special or wider. We have mixed types of living forms. So we have 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, more or less classical, then shared apartments and cluster apartments, and the circulation or the access is also about open corridors again. This time it's a wooden structure. The walls and ceilings are made of wood, glued laminated timber we use. And at this time, we are quite excited about this type of housing, which is called cluster apartment. I think most of you know what it means. It means you have very private units, relatively small and bigger community spaces. The private units you can see with the greenish windows, yeah, and in front of you, you see this great space. And the special thing is, for instance, that you have 3 entrance doors, not only 1. That makes the difference, I think. So you can see here, you can some built-ins, and you can divide it with curtains. There are a few niches and so on. So here's a view into the private units. The aim is that you can do everything in your private unit without using the common space if you would like. And so you have a very small unit with a shower and a toilet, and then over the doors, the entrance door and the bath door, you have a place for storage. And we try to use every single corner of the limited space. It's as 1 private unit is around 70 square meters. You have also your own loggia outside. And the special thing is also that we put the sink, not in the bathroom, but in the room. So you can see it here. You can use the sink for washing yourself, but also for washing maybe a glass or a plate if you like. And so it opens the space up there more than it could be integrated in the bathroom, and everything would be closed. Yeah, finally, I think, I don't know if we have really an answer to these questions you formulated before. And I think it's really, really complex, the whole theme, who will come, and maybe in 50 or 100 years, we are all nomads again, like we were a long time before. Because of climate change, everything is possible. So we think that our projects are not really prototypical, and above all, because space and resources, materials, energy are super limited at the moment. But we believe that some of the rules we found for the program, as well as for the design of the 2 projects, we can also apply in other circumstances. So in particular, to the architecture for the future, we think we will more deal with rebuilding and conversion instead of building new, and use really what we already have, use existing buildings and reuse materials.